Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build NBA edition. I am Kevin Roberts, getting ready to go over the DraftKings main slate for Friday night. It's going to be a pretty interesting one. Both the MLB and NBA are coming out ferociously today. This is a massive 10-game slate for NBA. And the funny thing is, not everybody has something to play for. Some of these guys are going to show up and barely play. Some of these guys are going to sit out. And of course, we do have some teams that are definitely going to play for something and have major incentive to compete and win. Core plays have been on fire. Core plays were really good 2 days ago. We had Giddy when he had 70 plus fantasy points. Yesterday, they were on point. Taylor did a good job there too. And we're going to look to do the same for this huge slate. So a lot of news is going to come out and make some of what I say kind of irrelevant, but I think there's value in breaking this down and looking at the scenarios ahead of time because there's a lot to digest and there's a lot to consider. And then you can just go in when the news hits. Like for instance, if Giannis is ruled out, you're going to go in knowing this is what I should do if Giannis is out. So we're going to touch base on everything. I'm going to go team by team because there's a lot of different scenarios to talk about. And then I'll wrap it up with my favorite play at each position. If anything I say here does help you out, please help me out too by hitting the like button. Let's try to get 30 likes today, and also subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. In our YouTube analytics, I can see that a lot of people routinely come back and view these videos, but don't subscribe for whatever reason. So please do so. That way, any other videos that we do for breakdowns like this, you get them. If you turn your notifications on, you get alerted to them. So that helps us out quite a bit. And you can take it a step further if you want to help support us and also get core plays and advice. You can head to our Patreon, which is linked at the bottom of this video. Only $5.99 for the entire month to get access to all of our favorite picks, all of our stacks for MLB, and of course our Discord, so you can come in and talk shop with everybody, share your lineups, and get extra advice. If you're a newbie, that is the place to be. We will help you get better at this game. All right, let's get to it here, looking at each team. Not really normal way we do it. I think it's just a better way to condense a massive slate like this. So on the Hawks side, they're facing the Sixers. This is a pretty nice spread, a pretty bad spread, 9-point spread. So Atlanta's favored to win. Definite blowout risk. That was certainly the case in Trae Young's last game when he had 43 fantasy points. Yesterday, yeah, we had 40. We ended up 48 fantasy points. He had 43 fantasy points after 3 quarters, and he played a little bit more. But he just has a massive ceiling. If the game stays close, he's going to crush. He is picking up ownership here because he's probably one of the few studs that we can actually trust. So I don't mind getting into Trae. You can always play Onyeka Okongwu in tournaments. He does project well. The price is a little bit steep at 8.2K, but I don't think he's going to be mega owned, which makes him appealing. And of course, Dyson Daniels at 7.8K. These guys are all projected for kind of normal minutes here, maybe a little bit light just because the blowout risk is real. So I'm a little bit worried about the blowout risk, and also just the fact that like the Hawks are, I believe, locked into the play-in tournament at this point, and they can't really improve their seeding. I guess they could worsen their seeding by losing. So I think that alone should give them incentive to keep playing and get a win here. Just worth noting, it's like the play-in tournament seeding. Like, I don't know how important people view that. It's just reality. You have to win 2 games to get in the playoffs. Or if they win the first game, I think they're good. But point is, might be a little bit riskier than usual with the Hawks. That said, there is a little bit of motivation there. So I think if you want to pay for Trae Young, that's fine. I'm not like super into Onyeka or Dyson Daniels, and I think if you want to play Risa Shea and target that chase that 54-point fantasy outing, I won't be joining you. I don't think that's going to happen again. On the Philly side, they are interesting because number one, you do have Quentin Grimes, who in close games does play like 36 to 38 minutes. They are not taking it easy on him. Nick Nurse lied to us quite a while ago. He basically benched Kelly Oubre into oblivion. They just shut him down. But Quentin Grimes, that has not been the case. If he gets a full allotment of minutes here, like, he looks really good. 9.3K. The projection is not amazing, but that's only because he's only at 38 minutes. Like, if we bump him up to like 36 or 38 minutes, he's going to look awesome. So not really a priority spend for me on this slate, but if he's going to be unowned against the Hawks and he's in, I like him actually quite a bit. The other guys are just okay right now. But if we get Philly at just 8 bodies, like if Quentin Grimes is out, then they only have 8 guys. And then Alex Reese is also questionable. So could it be like Alex Reese plays, but he doesn't actually play? Like they list him as an available body, but then we're down to 7 guys possibly for Philly. It could be something that happens. So right now, Adem Bana, 6K, not like the best price for him by any means. Not like I don't feel like amazing paying that much for Bana, but relative to the slate, it's a massive slate. There's a lot of options to consider, but nothing wrong with him whatsoever. He does have a role. He's going to start. He's going to play 35 minutes or so. If the game can stay close, and the matchup with the Hawks is great. Same can be said for Lonnie Walker and Jared Butler, and all these other guys would be in play, just like we did with the Pels yesterday, if we're looking at an 8 or even 7-man rotation here. If Quentin Grimes is in, I like Quentin Grimes a little bit, and then if you want to play Bana and Lonnie, that's okay. I don't mind it. Jared Butler, if he starts again, he's in play, 5.5K. It's not the worst risk in the world. But I don't think Philly is really where I'm going, but they are certainly a secondary source of value that I do not mind. Hornets, I'm going to stay away from. Obviously, on the road against the Celtics, not a good matchup. It is a very big spread. Pretty unlikely we see the Celtics play a full allotment of minutes, but still, probably not going to be the case for Charlotte either. Like Mark Williams in GPP for life. If the game stayed close and he wrecks, it's possible, but I'm not going to play with that. I think Salon at 4.8K, he feels a little bit steep relative to the slate. There's going to be just a bunch of value that we would feel a lot better about. There is Nick Smith at 4.4, looks a little bit more interesting just because he has a better ceiling. He showed that last game with 54 fantasy points. He just does still have a remarkably low floor. So overall, not super into Hornets here. KJ Simpson is okay. Nick Smith Jr. is okay. Salon is okay. Just nobody really stands out. On the Boston side, doesn't really seem like they're going to get their major minutes here, plus the blowout risk anyways. So they have no reason to play. They locked up the number 2 seed. They can't go up. They can't go down. Maybe they'll have a tune-up game in their next game. I think they have one more after this. But whatever the case, they're not going to play 40 minutes here. We're not going to pay 10-6 for Tatum. If all those guys were out again, we could entertain the idea of Peyton Pritchard at 7.2K, but it doesn't really seem like that's going to be the case. So if everybody's in and just kind of there and like not playing full minutes, we can just cross this game off the list. The Cavs are probably a similar situation. All those guys rested yesterday. Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. So I would imagine they're back just to like stay in a rhythm and everything. They have the number 1 seed locked up. They don't really have any incentive to win, and there's no risk of if they lose. So Ty Jerome, DeAndre Hunter, Sam Merrill, they were awesome last night. They all exceeded their prices by miles. So they were auto plays and they hit. And Ty Jerome was in our core, so naturally, he was great. Jarrett Allen, though, we talked about this in Discord. Jarrett Allen started to continue his consecutive start streak, but he only played 16 minutes in a game that was close, which, by the way, it was a 2-point game late in the fourth quarter, and they benched even Jerome and Merrill. So, I don't know. The Cavs are weird. If any of those main guys rest again, we can certainly go back to Jerome and Hunter, even look at Craig Porter Jr., Sam Merrill. That's fine. But it just looks like they're going to, like, those other guys are going to be back, and they're going to play them a little bit, and then we really can't trust anybody. If you're going to play anybody, it's going to be Jerome and Hunter for me. I think they're still going to be involved. They're still going to get like 25 minutes, probably no matter what. Both the starters back, they're just a little bit less appealing, and there is a lot of value that we should be liking on this slate. The Knicks are going to play, as is the case no matter what with Tibbs. They're probably just going to always play, but they actually want to hold on to the 3 seed, I would imagine. There's 2 games left for the Knicks. They're only 1 game ahead of the Indiana Pacers, so they need to win tonight. If they win tonight, I think that might lock it up for them. But either way, they still need to win. So they're going to go hard here. The Cavs are not an easy draw, even if the Cavs are kind of at, half strength, so to speak. But yeah, Cat is going to look good at 4.6 or 46 point fantasy projection here. He's going to get ownership because, like I said, like there's not a lot of studs on this slate that we feel really strongly confident that are going to get like full minutes. Pretty sure Cat's going to get full minutes against the Cavs here. So I like him a lot at 9.6. Brunson's totally fine at 8.8. Dropped a major fart burger on us yesterday, 29 fantasy points. Gladly, we were not on him at all. We liked Cat. He was fine. I think he got like 45. So it always never wants to load when I go, okay, so 45, yeah, in 29 minutes. Like, that's great. 45 in 29 minutes is really good. So if he would have played more, then obviously he would have hit. Josh Hart and OG on the newbie sat out. They'll be back. So obviously that's a little bit of a ding to like Brunson and Cat in terms of usage. But in general, I think you could certainly play both Brunson and Cat. You can still play any of the other Knicks guys Just we're not obviously playing Precious Achua now, who was a smash value yesterday. Unless, of course, Hart and OG are out again, then we could certainly entertain that. For the most part, for me, it's just cat or bust for the Knicks right now. I actually like the Washington Wizards quite a bit. Now, we do always have to worry about them when it comes to actually playing their guys' minutes, but they're down a bunch of bodies. Jordan Poole is out. Let me locate this game just to make sure who's actually missing. No Chris Middleton, no Malcolm Brogdon. Rashawn Holmes is questionable. All these other guys that have been out, Kispert, Coulibaly, none of these guys are playing. So they're just shorthanded in general. And also they have been giving an extended leash to Bub Carrington. And lately, even Champagny and AJ Johnson gets a lot of minutes too. I still would stick with the Wizards that actually start because we have way too many run-ins with Tristan Vukovic looking great and then going out there and playing like 5 or 10 minutes or something crazy. So playing Wizards bench guys is not something I want to do. I think Sarr in a really good spot against the Bulls is still playable at 6.5K. Rock solid play. Don't think he's going to get that much ownership. Solid projection. I prefer Carrington a little bit just because his minutes have been massive. Last game, I think he had a little bit of foul trouble and the game blew out. So I'm not going to really read too much into that one. The reality is it's a really good spot against the Bulls. The price is not egregious for a guy that can play 40 minutes. Like that's really nice. Like when we were talking about Knicks before, and we're talking about like Mikal Bridges or something, and he's 5'7", and we know he's going to get 38 minutes in a close game. Like, why would you not consider that? So you don't have to play Carrington. He's not a core play, but he looks really solid at that price given the minutes he's going to get. Same with Champagny at 5.7, and then to a lesser extent, AJ Johnson, just because he's going to play a ton, just has a really low floor. On the Bulls side, they also are in the play-in tournament. They can't get out of it, and they can't slide out of it either. Let me just double check to make sure I'm correct about that. Yeah, they're in. I guess they can avoid dropping to the last seed in that tournament, and they might be able to even jump up over Atlanta. So, I guess they have incentive to keep playing here. The Wizards are an amazing matchup. So on paper, if we can trust that, Giddey looks awesome. Giddey has been amazing for a long time now, ever since Levine left and they had no Lonzo Ball, they had no Ayo Dosunmu. It's just like he's running the offense and running it very, very well. He had a couple tough matchups or like blowout scenarios that played against them in recent games, but look at this game log, man. I am not a game log watcher, but I'm just telling you, he is legit. So 10-5 feels high for Giddey, but massive role, amazing matchup, really good projection. And again, not the best slate in the world which is weird because it's 10 games, for like really reliable pay-ups that we should feel confident that they'll get there. Slight concern that the Bulls could limit him if they don't really care about the seeding scenario for the play-in that much, but I don't think that's going to happen, and I think he's going to smash. So right now, I have him as a core play. We'll see if that sticks later tonight, but I mean, he just looks awesome. I like him a lot. Vooch is in play. Like 8.5K feels a little bit high for Vooch for who he's been on the year. But lately he's smashing 54 and 53 fantasy points in 2 of his last 3 games. The Wizards are a dream spot. He's put up 45 fantasy points per game across 3 meetings with them. They give up a ton of production to centers. So Vooch looks good. Kobe White looks good. Nice leverage play against Giddey if Giddey does pick up ownership. He's really scoring dependent. Like as we saw in this game here, 30 fantasy points, even though the big usage rate, like obviously facing Miami doesn't help. This is a great matchup though. You can fire up all 3 of those Bulls, maybe not all together, but you can fire them up across lineups, and I would have no concerns there. Kevin Huerter, Matas Buzelis, they're going to get minutes, so if you want to use them at 5.6 and 5.7, I don't hate it, but they're not priorities. Miami, Tyler Hero, I think, is questionable. This game obviously has massive blowout risk, 14-point spread. Let's see, check on the Heat here. The Heat are the last team in the play-in right now, so if they just kind of like assume they're going to have the last seed there, they might just kind of, ease off the gas a bit. So slight concern that I'd be more concerned with the minutes when it comes to them than the Bulls or the Hawks. Bulls and Hawks might want to avoid sliding and might want to take advantage of going up a little bit. Miami, we'll see what happens. But as things stand, it's a really good matchup with the Pels, and Hero and Bam have massive usage rates. So if we can expect a full allotment of minutes against this soft matchup, they look good. I think Andrew Wiggins, Khalil Ware are okay, and Donovan Mitchell gets massive minutes, so you can certainly play him, especially if you think the game's going to blow out. But I'm mostly looking at Hero and Bam here. On the other side, right now, the Pels project to have all those same guys miss that sat out yesterday. If any of those guys are back, I think that kind of really messes things up, and like suddenly the Pelicans are not very appealing. Like you could maybe play some of these guys because it has such a big spread. Because honestly, I don't know if Kelly Olynyk or Bruce Brown returning would really make this spread that much closer. So that said, it looks like they probably will sit again. They don't really have a lot of incentive to play any of their vets anyways. So I would just imagine we get a repeat. We get a repeat of what we had yesterday. Antonio Reeves, Keon Brooks, Carlo Makovich, those guys are going to look the best because they're going to have a clear path to 35 minutes if the game somehow stayed close. But it's an 8-man rotation, so they're going to probably play that much anyways. If you think the game blows out, which it probably will, you can certainly look at Lester Quinones off the bench. He smashed yesterday. Elfrid Payton at 3.9. That is a really tough one to avoid. 2 real points yesterday, but 14 assists. So not a good matchup. But if they only have 8 bodies, Elfrid Payton is really tough to ignore at 3.9K. Jamal Cain off the bench, he did well also. Like everybody hit yesterday except for, can you guess? Kyler Kelly. So he's like the one guy I probably wouldn't get to here. Even Robinson Earl smashed. So it could be a repeat where we could just look at the punts here, like Robinson Earl, Alfred, Quinones, Kane, and avoid the other guys, maybe in the event the game gets out of hand. But everybody for the Pels looks good. And if I'm not trying to play for a blowout, then Reeves, Brooks, and Makovich are the top 3 priorities there. Toronto is a mess. This Jonathan Mogbo dude is weird. He had a triple-double in his last game, and 2 games in a row is 50-plus fantasy points. I would call it chasey, but 37 minutes last game, 26% usage rate. The triple-double thing is really interesting. Like, are they going to just – they have a bunch of guys out, first of all. So Toronto is always fun to look at if they're going to sit guys. Right now, Scotty Barnes is projected to be in, but Jacoby Walter, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, Jakob Poeltl all out. So it could be the Mogbo show again. And why not? Like, why not go and see what this guy can do? He projects well. He's only 5.5K. He's not going to be a core play for me probably just because it does feel a little chasey. His price did come up. And that's like this going and getting 50-plus fantasy points for a 3rd game in a row just feels like not very likely. But at 5.5K, if he can get you like 35 to 40 fantasy points, that'd be a big win. You wouldn't feel bad about that whatsoever. All the ownership dipped away right as I was doing that. So that's super fun. I'll try to refresh it as I go. And actually, I'm going to refresh the news just in case anything else came out as I'm doing this. I'm doing this early in the day because it's 10 games. Like a lot is going to unfold, and I'm not going to be around to do it later in the day anyways. It just makes sense to do it now. News be damned. But yeah, for Toronto, I do like Mogbo. I don't mind it. It feels slightly chasey, but I think Orlando Robinson, he's still in the projection pool here, but I feel like they just released him. So I would keep an eye on that. Don't think I'm going to play Orlando Robinson, but Mogbo looks good with no Poeltl. Jamal Shead, AJ Lawson, I think they're in play. But with Scotty Barnes there, like there's just a lack of a ceiling in general. I think it's mostly Mogbo or bust. For the Dallas side, I don't think Dallas has much incentive here. Let me double check. They are the last team in the play-in. They are a game behind the Kings, so technically they could give it a go here and try to improve their seeding for the first game. But like Anthony Davis has been limited anyways. He's 10.2K now. It's probably going to blow out. This game has a 12-point spread. Like he's been good. I played him at low ownership right here against the Hawks, 68 fantasy points. That was awesome. But otherwise, he's been pretty disappointing. This is certainly a spot where Brow can smash. He's pushing for a 50-point fantasy projection. He could definitely hit that in 3 quarters. But if this game stayed close, then he could be really interesting. He's not going to be owned either. So for GPPs, with a lot of the ownership being kind of concentrated right now on like Trey, Giddey, and Jokic, I think Brow is an interesting tourney play, but he's not a priority just because the blowout risk and the fact that he's kind of limited already. With all these other guys back, nobody else really stands out. I will say, though, Klay Thompson, Dante Exum, Jaden Hardy, and Spencer Dinwiddie are all on the injury report. They're all questionable. If those guys miss, Brandon Williams at 3.2K would be very interesting. Like that would become a much more appealing punt than some of the Pels spares off the bench. Like those guys would still obviously be very much in play. But Brandon Williams, especially if he's not limited or anything. Let me just check his game log and see where he's been. I mean, he hasn't been playing monster minutes, but the fact that he played 27, actually, he hasn't even been in the rotation lately. So he even himself just came back recently. Let me see where he's at. Brandon Williams. Yeah, he hasn't even been involved. So my guess is he's fully healthy, and there would not be a limitation if Dinwiddie and any of these other guys end up missing. If that's the case and he starts at 3.2, he would probably be in core play territory, assuming he isn't limited. But the fact that he hasn't been in the rotation, just definitely keep an eye on that. I would probably want him to start to take a chance there. My favorite game of the night is Memphis and Denver. As far as just like flat out stacking a game, I love this game. It's a really nice 242 total, fast paced environment, not a lot of defense. And both these teams badly need to win. We saw that yesterday with the Wolves and the Grizz. We said going in, like, that's what we want to do. We want to end the night with Ja and Bane and Anthony Edwards. And honestly, the only thing that really hurt me yesterday is Anthony Edwards was super chalky. I did not really expect that. Like early projections for the ownership had him at like 16%. He was in single entries. He was 70% owned. So it's pretty wild, especially on a slate with Giannis and Trey and Cat, like all these other dudes there, Cade. So a little bit surprising to see that. But that's neither here nor there. The reality is really good DFS environment, and both these teams are currently at risk of falling. Or actually, are they both in? Oh no, Memphis and Minnesota are in the play-in right now. So Memphis is in the play-in right now, but they can still get out of the play-in and get one of the bottom two seeds in the West. Denver, meanwhile, still has a chance to get the third seed in the West. And I don't know if Memphis is realistically, in there for that. I'm not sure they can get there. But Denver can also still fall into the play-in, so that's not something they want. Point is, this looks great again. The Grizzlies did play yesterday, so slight fatigue risk. Just don't really think it's a situation where we're going to see like a surprise questionable tag or like any of these guys sitting. Like they need to play and win this game. So Ja looks amazing at 9K. Love him. Bane and JJJ are secondary plays compared to Ja, but they look really, really good. Bane nuked last night. JJJ, as always, had foul trouble. He still played 37 minutes because he ended up playing a ton late, but he did. I appreciate foul trouble still. Yeah. So either way, JJJ is going to be like a GPP only play. I think Bane is a little bit more reliable and not that more expensive. And I also like Zach Edey, 5.8K. He's been playing big minutes, 28 plus minutes in each of his last 5 games. And he's got to be out there to help stop Jokic. Plus, Jokic hasn't been stopping anybody on the inside all year. So Edey is really sneaky. Going to be interesting to see where his ownership is. Only other guy I'd really look at is Santi Aldama, just because if he gets hot, he can get hot in a fast-paced game. 5.4K, don't mind that at all. Denver side, Jokic is a lock. 13K is 13K, but the DFS environment is amazing. Jamal Murray is doubtful, so he gets a usage uptick, and he's projected for 70 fantasy points. There is so much potential value on this slate. I've only gone over the obvious options that are out there right now, but things are sure to change to some degree before lock to get even more value out there. Plus, there's always like you can take chances on cheap guys that maybe don't stand out, but would be viable. One of them being Jalen Pickett, who with Murray out, he's going to start 4K flat. Like he doesn't really stand out as like a really, really nice projecting play, but 31 minutes in a game with Memphis, fast paced, no defense, like Pickett looks really good. I like Pickett at 4K. So, point being, everybody's going to be able to get to Jokic. He's going to be massively owned. That's not really the time to fade Jokic when he's going to be like 90% owned in a single entry. Like that feels bad to not be in on a guy who's probably a borderline lock to get 70 plus fantasy points and maybe get 100 or something crazy, which he's capable of doing. So I'm playing Jokic. He's a core play for me. You can always make an argument for going underweight on a guy that's that expensive or go more of a balanced build or something. I just don't think that is the optimal way to win on Friday. So after him, MPJ, he's going to get a boost. Christian Brown's going to get a boost. Aaron Gordon's going to get a boost. So all those guys are in play. I think the one that stands out the most is just going to be Aaron Gordon because he's the cheapest. You can entertain Russ off the bench here because maybe Pickett struggles and they play Russ more. It's possible. but at 7-6, he's not really in play for me. It's just a little bit too risky. All right, last game of the night. Nets at the Wolves. Wolves still have to play hard and win here, like I said. So this has major blowout risk. This is a 19-point spread. I don't really envision the Nets putting up much of a fight. Because of that, Drew Timme does stand out here. He has the best projection. He's been crushing for them, by the way. Still kind of limited off the bench to a certain degree, but he's getting like 24 to 29 minutes, 26 plus fantasy points in 3 straight. Nice usage rate, really good per minute guy. Because of the blowout risk, and also they're down a bunch of guys. We're going to be without Clowney, Cam Johnson, D'Lo, and Day'Ron Sharpe. So, and they already were without, Cam Thomas. So I think Timme, as a probably low owned value play at 4.6K off the bench here, is really interesting. So he's probably the only guy for the Nets that I feel good about. And even he is like kind of risky. You can certainly entertain other guys, but like they're just not getting like a long leash. Like Keon Johnson normally with like D'Lo and Cam's out, the Cams being out, he would be in play, but he just has not been getting the minutes plus the blowout risk. So I would look at maybe like Nets punts possibly. Just nobody really stands out to me though beyond Timme. On the other side, the Timberwolves, obviously this game is at risk of blowing out, but until it does, Anthony Edwards is going to look really good at 9.7K. Just because the Timberwolves are going to be super aggressive. They won last night. They beat the Grizzlies. They have to keep winning. Their exact situation is they are tied with Memphis, and they're currently in the play-in. Both these teams are just behind Golden State, and then right above them is Denver and LA. Like if Denver loses tonight and Memphis and Minnesota both win, like obviously Memphis would be beating Denver, then Memphis could leapfrog Denver and Minnesota could leapfrog Denver, and all of a sudden Denver's coming down to the play-in. Like it's wild. These teams are definitely going to come to play. The blowout risk is the thing, and plus the slow pace that the Nets tend to contribute to games. So I don't mind going away from Edwards if he's going to be chalky like he was yesterday. But he projects well, and he's going to be out there playing massive minutes if the game stays close. Julius, Rudy, totally fine. Nas off the bench at 5.3. DiVincenzo, like those guys are all okay plays. Don't have a problem with them. But I think Edwards, just at a high level, is the main priority here. All right. That was a lot to say in 27 minutes here. 10 games is 10 games. That's what's going to happen. I'll go quickly over each position just to highlight top play. Giddey at point guard is the top play there for sure. I think for value, we can look at Ty Jerome, and then I would hover around the Pels, Elfrid Payton, and I'd hover around maybe the Sixers also, just because both those teams might have very, very small rotations. Also, Brandon Williams, if Spencer Dinwiddie does indeed miss. Shooting guard kind of sucks. Anthony Edwards up top. I would kind of look at the ownership. If he's going to be super chalky again, I might do something different just because the game has blowout risk and it's a slower paced game. That would maybe bring me down to the Pels value. Antonio Reeves stands out the most there. And then, of course, there is Quentin Grimes, who's a nice pivot at 9.3K. And then Desmond Bane, I also like quite a bit. At small forward, Kobe White is okay leverage on Giddey if you don't want to pay for Giddey. I'd probably punt here, though. I'm looking at Antonio Reeves or Keon Brooks from the Pels. We can also look at Sixers value possibly. And then, like Lonnie Walker, mid-range at 6.2. I don't hate that. And Champagny for the Wizards. I do like him quite a bit. Power forward Giannis, if he's in, I don't mind that. Did I actually miss the Bucks here? Oh, I did. I missed 2 games because it was clicked over. Okay. Well, why don't I just touch on those while we're here? That's insane. Okay, so Milwaukee, it just really comes down to Giannis. If Giannis is in, Giannis is a fair play, and it probably will not be that owned considering Jokic is going to be popular. If he's out, Bobby and Brook would benefit the most, and you could look at KPJ, Kuzma, and Rollins just to a slightly lesser degree. Like Kuzma has not really excelled when Dame and Giannis are out for whatever reason. So just keep that in mind. On the Pistons side, Cade, like that's all I really want. But they did play yesterday, so if Cade were to rest and be out, then we could look at Dennis Schroeder and Malik Beasley. Not super excited to pay 7K for Azar Thompson, but if like Tobias were rested, he would be a little bit more appealing as well. Orlando, they look like they're going to rest some guys. Banchero, Wagner, Carter are all questionable. If those guys are in, they're fine against the Pacers. They don't really have a lot of incentive to play though. If they're out, Anthony Black and Cole Anthony would get major bumps, and we could look at guys like Goga Patadze, Gary Harris. Like I don't want to do any of that. That feels worse than the Pels, which is wild. Pacers, if they are full go, not really the best spot against Orlando, but if the Magic like rest all their guys, This would be a second straight game where Indy gets a skeleton crew on the other side of the court, basically. So in theory, Hallie would be really interesting as an unowned play at 9.1. I don't really want to play Siakam ever. Miles Turner is a good price, and then you could just take shots on the cheap Pacers if you want to. All right, so let's go back over. We're at power forward. So obviously Giannis, that sparked that reminder that I missed those games. If Giannis is in, I think he's interesting just because he probably won't be very owned. And if that is the case, I would have interest in him. But right now, I think at power forward, I'm probably going down. Mogbo at 5.5 looks really interesting. Aaron Gordon's okay at 6.3. We can use Keon Brooks there from the Pels or Carlo Makovic. Probably looking at Pels value here for the most part. I do like JJJ for GPPs as well. Bobby, if Giannis is out, and Champagny, I already talked about. All right, and center, wrap it up. Jokic is a lock for me. There's just way too much value, way too much riding on this game. Jokic is going to smash. I think he's going to get like 90 fantasy points tonight. It's not going to really matter because he's going to be mega owned. You're just not going to want to fade him. Giannis is leverage. Cat is leverage. I don't mind that. Vooch and Onyeka are good plays, just not for this slate. They don't feel like super, super necessary. If you want to save, Mogbo at 5.5 is totally fine, and Edie at 5.8. And you can always slide Carlo Makovic over here to center, assuming those Pels guys are out. And there is Drew Timmy at 4.6. I don't hate him. I just don't think he's going to be like, I don't think like going all the way down at center is really going to be the way to get it on this slate. All right, that does it for me. We cut it at just over a half hour, 10 games, getting 10 games. Hopefully it helps you out. Things are going to change to make some of what I said kind of, useless to a certain degree. But I do think breaking down the games and the rotations a little bit and looking at who's going to benefit the most just gets you ready for all that madness right away. And of course, if you don't already, use some kind of lineup optimizer to help you with projections and ownership to just give you an extra boost. And if you're not doing so already, follow or subscribe to this YouTube channel. That gives us a boost and gets you alerted to future videos like this. Give this video a like and head over to our Patreon right now to get a just $5.99 for the month package to all of our plays. I already pushed out MLB DFS pitcher picks and stacks for today's massive 13-game slate. And of course, you can catch our core plays and get access to our Discord to get personalized advice leading into lock. All right, thanks for watching and good luck.